Hey there guys, I am the Six Machine and welcome back to another Warhammer video. In our newest look at the legions for the upcoming Heresy game, it is the Resolute Defenders of Terra, the Indomitable Guardians, the Imperial Fists. Led by Dorn, they were instrumental in fortifying the planet to make sure that it could hold out against the arrayed might of all the traitor legions, and by all rights, they actually did pretty well considering the circumstances they found themselves in. With a penchant for building the most impregnable defences, they have some pretty solid rules in this new edition of Age of Darkness, so let's dive right in and take a look at what is coming for the boys in yellow. Their Legion trait, in a similar way to the current 40k rules, favours the use of bolt weapons, and they get a very tasty +1 to hit rolls when they fire any auto or bolt weapon, including any reactions, so that is going to be a large part of your army hitting on 2s as they shoot their anti-infantry weaponry and things like heavy bolters as well. They are all going to be much more effective with this ballistic skill boost. It's nothing particularly flashy, to be fair, but it is potentially a very potent buff to your army when you're going to have so many bolters on the battlefield. And it's going to be something that is going to be a benefit to pretty much every single unit that you bring, and really pushes you towards having this incredibly strong anti-infantry focus in your battle plan. So you are likely going to have a lot of thinned out enemy squads by the time they reach your lines. But your opponent may be thinking that they can weather this fire, and then when they reach your lines, you are not going to have any way to counter their close combat potential. But never fear, when they do charge your lines, there is another trick that the Imperial Fists have up their sleeves. Their unique advanced reaction, the best defense, is, well, as we all know, a good offense. And this reaction does exactly that. You use it when an enemy unit has moved within 10 inches and line of sight of one of your units, and as part of this reaction, you can declare a charge against that unit. So yes, you can get a charge off in the opponent's movement phase. You can't make a full charge, it's only d6 plus the lowest initiative in your unit, so it's usually going to be d6 plus 4 inches. So the maximum you can go is 10, but I mean, you can only declare this reaction against a unit within 10 inches, so the fact that it's 2d6 plus 4 is in some ways an advantage, because the average on a d6 is 3.5, so d6 plus 4 will actually, in some cases, get you a higher average than rolling 2d6, so it is actually potentially quite a reliable way to get a charge off, especially if the unit moves to within, 7 inches or so. You can pretty confidently do this reaction and know that you have a not unreasonable chance of making it into combat. When you do reach combat as a result of this reaction, your unit fights in the assault phase as usual, and importantly, you do get any benefits that you normally would from charging, so things like Hammer of Wrath and all that, which is a really big boost, because not only does it mean that you can charge your opponent in their turn, you get those benefits, and also if your opponent has any plus attacks on the charge, you deny them those rules as well. So it's a really good way of not only disrupting your enemy's battle plans, but also disrupting their incredibly killy melee combination. If they've got some kind of plan lined up for charging into you and getting loads of extra attacks and strength or whatever, you can completely counter that. Whilst it is arguably quite easy for your opponent to work around, if they are aware of it, they can just stay out of 10 inches from your lines. But the important thing in this is that eventually, if your opponent wants to get into combat with you, they're going to need to move up close. And as soon as they get within that 10-inch range in their movement phase, you can pop this reaction. So you can really wait and hold it back until the right moment. And then when your opponent does have to get within 10 inches of you, you can get off this devastating charge into their lines and just completely disrupt their plans and negate any benefits that they were going to try and set up for their charge. It really is one of those rules that even if it doesn't actually get used, is going to affect how your opponent plays, and if he does want to avoid being charged by you, this is going to mean a lot of his units are going to have to hold back and be really cagey about how they move so they don't get within range of this reaction. So from a pure movement controllability effect, I think this has huge potential for the Imperial Fists and will allow you to control the battlefield and keep your opponent back so that you can just keep shooting your bolters into them for an extra turn or two and do as much damage at range as you possibly can. They also showed us a Rite of War for the Fists. They previously had a really cool one in the Stone Gauntlet, but today we got to see the Templar Assault, which focuses on the absolutely kick-ass models of the Templar Brethren. And if you are a fan of the Black Templars, then yeah, think sort of the precursors to that kind of army. In this rite, Templar Brethren can be taken as a troops choice, which is straight away an awesome buff for your list if you want to go for a more melee focused army. Getting more of these fantastic little close combat powerhouses is always a good thing. But on top of that, they not only gain the Heart of the Legion rule, which I'm not entirely sure we know what it does just yet, but from the article it sounds like it's going to help them hold objectives, so maybe some kind of objective secured style ability, if you know that from 40k. But then also on top of that, what is quite possibly the most powerful part of this rite is that when your Templar Brethren disembark from a transport, they get the Rage 2 special rule for that turn. And this will, I presume, grant you extra attacks in a similar way to how it does now. So when you disembark from, say, a Land Raider and go to charge your enemy, you will be getting a devastating number of attacks to just chop through your enemy forces. It's a bit unlike the White Scars rite in that you get a bit more overt power from this one, I think, and I would say that Rage is arguably better than Outflank depending on how your game plan is set up, but it is still a super cool, not wildly powerful rite compared to just running the regular Force Org style list. So I am, again, a really big fan of this rite, and I think if you are a Black Templar fan in 40k and you want to do a bit more of a melee focused Imperial Fist list, and you want to just bring a load of zealous Templar Brethren charging around the battlefield and cutting down all the enemies in front of you, this is going to be one to really try out, and I think you will have a lot of fun with it. Overall, I have to say I do really like these rules for the Fist. They seem to have a solid anti-infantry punch with their bolters, some really nasty movement and charge shenanigans with their reaction, and then of course a very solid, very fluffy and rather powerful Rite of War in the Templar Assault. It's going to be a great legion for anyone that loves massed bolter fire or going full out crazy with a Black Templar style vibe. So if either of those things does apply for you, you may have found your legion right here. But what do you think of the Imperial Fists so far? Do you think the reaction is going to be a powerful way to disrupt your enemy's plans? And are you planning on running the Templar Assault right, or will you be sticking to the usual massed bolter fire of the Imperial Fists? Let me know in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me. And until next time, I'll catch you later, guys.